Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, to all of our non-binary friends, to everyone on the spectrum and in between, welcome to another episode of The Shutter Show. My name is Ken Stacknick, and with me, as always, is...
David Marlowe.
David, how are you doing today?
Oh, fine and dandy like sour candy, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, broadcasting from a beautiful Oahu, just enjoying the sun, enjoying the beautiful scenery, eating a whole lot of poke, and generally just
doing a little bit of that aerial yoga.
Yeah. I did my first lesson of aerial yoga today. That was very fun. The place that I'm staying is also an aerial yoga studio, so it seemed like take advantage. And I'm not gonna lie, my lower back felt great afterwards.
Yeah. It's you're living a great romantic comedy over there right now.
I'm gonna meet a sassy barista, and this is my TV pilot.
Oh boy, I hope she's played by a young Drew Barrymore.
That'd be fun.
Preferably without the memory loss.
Yes. No. Let's hope not for a 51st States situation.
Yeah. Though, Ken, actually, last night, because I was telling you earlier, so have you ever listened to Churches? Like it's pronounced spelled CHVRCHES, like the band Churches?
No, I've not.
I'm not quite sure if they're. I don't even think you and I talk much about music and what kind of music you listen to. Like, personally, love them. Think they're great. My wife and I got to check out a concert over at the Palladium yesterday, and I did not realize how big of a horror buff the lead singer was. She actually, what's the name? The name of, oh God, I think the name of her latest album is Screen Violence. And she has a song on that album called Final Girl. And before even the concert starts, they play the theme to Nightmare on Elm Street. And towards the end, she goes off on screen. She goes off stage, and then ends up getting a T-shirt that says "Final Girl," and is completely covered in blood. And the music that she plays kind of has almost like a synth vibe to it, but also sounds really poppy. So I don't know. Like, it was. First off, I hadn't been to a concert in ages, and so it was just so nice to get that in. But yeah, I recommend checking them out. Actually, it was a lot of fun.
All right, well, I'll do that. Yeah, no, that sounds good. I like all of the words that came out of your mouth describing them. So that sounds like the music following them will probably also please my ears.
Yeah. So Ken, speaking of horror movies, what horror film are we covering today?
Oh, we're talking about a banger of a horror movie today. We are talking about William Peter Blatty's Exorcist III or Exorcist Legion, depending on which title you want to go by, whether you're going by the director's cut, the theatrical cut, or the original novel that it was based on.
Mm-hmm. Now, this actually, because reading a bunch of the interviews and taking in a lot of the synopses and doing some research on this, I find that some of the stories don't necessarily match up quite as well as some of the other stuff that we've covered. So I think I'm a little, so this Legion was always based as a sequel to The Exorcist, correct?
It was always seen as a sequel to The Exorcist, but it was not a book or the original cut, a movie that had an exorcism in it. It wasn't until they went into reshoots that the studio was like, we're gonna need you to put an exorcism in this, because he just wanted to, I believe he just wanted to release the movie as Legion, and still
then all of a sudden the studio,
they didn't want just didn't want to put too fine of a point on it. But then the studio was like, you're gonna have to, sorry.
Yeah, well, this will sell better if it has Exorcist on it, but at the same time, we can't call it The Exorcist if there isn't an exorcism present in it.
Yeah, no, it's like a lot like American Psycho 2, which was originally just like a totally different script. And then they just dropped, they had like William Shatner say Patrick Bateman's name once. and then they just called it American Psycho 2, and like, look, she's also crazy, and you're like, all right, well, this has nothing to do with that movie whatsoever. And yeah,
Were her eyebrows more tweezed in that one?
Oh yes, no, this is Mila Kunis and her final stage. I mean, to be fair, in the first Piranha, she's like 8. You know, I don't know what age you start tweezing your eyebrows, because I don't. But I'm going to go ahead and say 8 years old, you don't need to tweeze your eyebrows. That's totally fine.
Oh, yes. So also before we start this, Ken, I'm going to do a little shot of tequila since I don't have any sipping whiskey. So a cheers to the movie we are discussing. And
cheers. Hey, put your glass in the middle. Hang on. Well, cheers. See, no, to the side. See,
yep.
Clink on the screen. No, to the other side.
Oh.
Keep going. No, this is great podcasting. No, David, go to the other side. There we go. There we go. See, and then we clink. Clink.
Clink.
There we go. Great podcasting. I'm glad for watch the show on YouTube if you want to see what nonsense just happened.
That is interesting and tastes like nothing. Because this is a single serve tequila. This is one of those little itty bitty bottles that was giving me. It tastes like nothing.
Well, I hope it was worth it.
Does it even have alcohol in it?
Okay, so let's talk about.
Well, we got real off topic. I just got really confused all of a sudden.
No, we're fine. Your ADD is showing, and it's adorable. All right, so let's talk about what's amazing about this movie, David. Let's talk first of all, obviously, the cast of this
George
movie
C. Scott. I love that man and his cantankerous attitude. It is delightful, and his pairing with who's the actor who plays the his priest friend.
That would be Ed Flanders.
Ed, yes, the best name ever.
Mm-hmm.
Played by Ed Flanders. Their relationship on screen is nothing short of delightful.
I love every single second of it.
So goddamn hilarious. I did not expect this movie to be as funny as it was. Holy crap. Like, because I feel like I'd seen this movie before. It had been a very long time since I've seen it, if so. But I'd forgotten everything about any of their banter, especially his little monologue about the carp swimming around in his bathtub. And just how I love the film still continues to take itself seriously. It does a nice, careful zoom as he's doing this long monologue, and it just gets funnier and fucking funnier.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like this movie is very funny, but there's like there's maybe one joke in it. The one joke I'm thinking of is when the priest has been put into the hospital for what appears to be smoking related reasons. And mind you, this movie is filled with both smoking doctors and smoking priests, which are two things that I just happen to really enjoy. But he's in the hospital, and George C. Scott is like, and like he literally goes to light up in the hospital. And George C. Scott is like, hey, those things are going to kill you. And he goes, well, my brother used to smoke. And he goes, yeah, your brother died at 30. And he goes, he died in Vietnam. And he goes, they could be related.
They might be related.
Yeah, that's a joke. 100%. But like all of the comedy comes from the characters. It comes from the banters. It comes from their relationship. It comes from the core of the writing. And that's something that, I mean, Peter Blatty like wrote the original Exorcist book and movie, which were like the biggest book and the biggest movie in the world at the time. So the dude clearly knows what he's doing. But you get so much more of, I think, what I'm assuming Peter Blatty's actual personality is like in this, just in that like the original Exorcist is not funny.
Because Friedkin was originally going was Friedkin originally going to direct and then dropped out for another project?
No, from what I understand, he after the debacle of Exorcist II, I don't think he wanted anything to do with it. And let me be clear, Exorcist II is an absolute debacle.
Just listening to Brad Dourif talk about Exorcist II in the special features of like the director's cut making of The Exorcist III. Brad Dourif just being like just shits on it unceremoniously.
They had a terrific cast and they're all terrible.
Yeah, he's like that is an example of having literally all the best elements going into it and then completely shitting the bed.
Now that said, James Earl Jones does write a bee in the movie, and it's incredible. You should see it just for that.
Oh, it is a fun it is a fun train wreck, but it is in no way, shape, or form a good movie. And so it's it went from being like the most successful horror film in cinema history to all of a sudden like what went wrong. And then,
one of the biggest bombs, biggest flops, Razzie Award winning, like the whole nine.
Oh, it was terrible. And so unfortunately, they were going into this with a bit of a stink in the franchise, and William Peter Blatty, once again, like, because when they made The Exorcist, like he pitched The Exorcist to the studios, and I think even when he like went to write the book, he was hired by he was hired before the book was even written, and then wrote it, pitched it to a bunch of different studios. They all passed on it. And it wasn't until that he actually released his book and it sold millions of copies that the studios were like,
ooh, okay, actually, yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. William Friedkin, like, take over, good sir. And by the way, I will also say that director has the douchiest look of any director I have ever seen outside of Michael Bay. Like, he looks like he will spike your drink at a Hollywood party.
I mean, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah, he had, and to repeat a story I've told before, I'm for some reason blocked by him on Twitter for reasons I do not understand, because we have never engaged on Twitter. So something happened and I got blocked, which is weird.
Well, that just shows that he has poor taste, Ken. Poor taste makes great films with poor taste in people.
You hear that, Twitter squad? Hit Billy Friedkin up and ask why they banned Ken, why he's blocked Ken Stackpole. Get me unblocked, please.
And Friedkin, I'm sure you're a wonderful person. I'm sorry I said that you look sketchy as fuck.
I don't think he's listening, David. I would be shocked if he was listening.
No, I highly doubt that William Friedkin has at any point checked out our podcast.
But no, David, sorry, go on.
No. It's because what was like Morgan? I think it was Morgan Creek Productions called and renamed it Exorcist III Legion, like to compensate for like the misleading title. Like they kind of like you were saying, the script was completely altered, and they tacked on the exorcism scene at the very end.
And added Jason Miller.
Yeah, added Jason Miller, and they completely reshot all of Brad Dourif's scenes. They even rebuilt the set of the room that he was being interrogated in. Instead of like brick walls, he was now in a padded cell. And they added all these special effects and gore, whereas all the way up to that point, you really don't see much of anything.
Oh, like, at all in this whole movie.
Yeah, and they built the puppets, like as in they built the gore, like they had the gore effects on set. And this is sort of the genius of Blatty's direction, is he chose not to show it. All he chose to do was show the reactions of the actors looking at the bodies. And he even talks about when George C. Scott goes into talking about the details of the Gemini killer and what he does to his victims. You see in one scene, he looks at both hands, but they never cut to a shot of the hands. They just look at his reaction. Like, that's it. This movie is so subtle in the most masterful of ways. And then you can tell that there was a bit of studio interference, because all of a sudden there's these massive effects and a giant exorcism at the end and tons of gore. And you're like, oh, this took a beat change. But yeah, no, it was really interesting.
Now, David, a quick question. What is your history with the movie The Exorcist? Was it a movie that you saw young? Is it a movie that affected you? Is it one that you like or dislike? How do you feel about the original?
I saw it as a kid at first, and I remember at one point I saw the deleted scene of the girl going down the stairs. And for the longest time as a kid, I really did not want to see the movie, because that just watching that clip alone gave me nightmares as a kid.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then I watched it, I want to say when I was like 12. And there was a lot of stuff also happening in that film that I did not understand at that age. Yeah. Something about a crucifix, I think, was part of it.
Yep.
Not
Yep,
quite
yep.
understanding what it was. I thought that she was just stabbing herself
Mhm.
as opposed
Yep.
to stabbing herself.
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of parents raising kids and not letting them watch things, I think highly underestimate just how little people, like how little kids know at that age, and how it's going to be fine. They might be confused, but it's going to be fine. But yeah, no. And then I saw it as an adult, and it sticks in my brain, good sir. This is a work of art done by crazy people using techniques that in no way, shape, or form would ever be able to be done in this day and age.
Like firing off a gun in the middle of a take in order to get a startled result from your actors.
Exactly. Or nearly breaking the spine of a child actor.
Yep, good stuff. Good stuff.
Like without giving her a proper safe word to be like, you need to stop. Like just that you know that story, right? Like what happened with a harness and why they never stopped it.
Well, I mean, I know it, but you should tell the people at home if they don't.
Yes. So there's a scene in The Exorcist for folks who haven't seen it. If you have, why the hell are you listening to this episode? Or if you haven't, why are you listening to this episode? Where they, in the movie, it is flopping her up and down on the bed like a dead fish, pretty much. And it is violent. It is terrifying. But she's in a harness, and there's somebody underneath the bed that is pushing her up and pulling her down, pushing her up, pulling her down. And the harness at some point comes loose. And so then there's this giant piece of metal bar that is getting pushed into her spine. And she is saying, make it stop, make it stop. My God, it hurts. Please stop, please stop, please stop. But that's what she's supposed to say in the scene. So nobody knows that she's actually in an insane amount of pain. And then I think they had to take her to the hospital after that day of shooting. But she turns it like she's fine. But yeah, like it's like to this day, like that injury still bugs her. And then, oh God, what was it? And I think for Exorcist 3, or was it the first one? The stunt rolling down the stairs.
The stair fall in this movie is so insane. In the original movie, they do the stair fall, and they did it just down one small flight of steps, and then they just repeated the shot over and over again, because those steps are the kind of long block East Coast city stairs that like kind of like the stairs from the Joker, where there's stairs and there's a flat bit and then stairs and then a flat bit. And so this time they take the camera all the way to the base, and this guy rolls down like 3 whole flights of stairs, and they're brick, and he's all padded up. And they had to do it a second time. He rolled too close to the camera at the end of the first one. They were like, "Hey, can you do it one more time?" And he was like, "Sure," and then did it. And then they immediately took him to the hospital. He was fine. It was one of those things.
It's just you have to do it because the doctor has to check you out and make sure that, because you could say you're fine, but turns out, hey, actually something burst in you and you might not know it.
Yeah, it turns out falling down 3 flights of stairs twice is probably not good for you.
Yeah, no, there's plenty. And then of course, like, well, you talk about The Exorcist, there's so much controversy surrounding that film, including multiple deaths that occurred either on set or around the time of shooting, or that happened like soon after the shoot. It's like the actor who played Burke, who the girl at some point, it is believed that she killed this person. Immediately after he was done filming, he died. I don't know I don't remember what the cause of death was, but yeah, like that actor passed away immediately after filming his stuff. There was a couple of crew people who ended up passing away. What was, I think, like the set caught fire at one point.
Yep, that definitely happened.
Yeah, it's just a lot of, I mean, obviously, when you're making a film like this, it's it's understandable that there's a lot of superstition that surrounds it. Of course, I think most actors are like, or most of the filmmakers are like, no, I mean, it's all stupid coincidences, but it say what you will, it made for great marketing. That is.
Well, it's like the story of Jim Caviezel being on the cross and getting struck by lightning when they were making Passion of the Christ, or the similar weird deaths with Poltergeist. Some of it's real, some of it's not, some of it's PR, some of it's been embellished, some of it is just weird. I mean, like a stuntman died on the set of Expendables 2, and that's an action movie, but that doesn't get chalked up as being spooky because, well, he was a stuntman who died on the set of an action movie. What happened? But it happens on the set of a horror movie, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is so crazy. So it's just one of those things. The reason I wanted to bring up the original and talk about it is because, like, The Exorcist for me was like a huge movie from my youth, and the fact that my dad showed it to me when I was like, I want to say 14, and I was raised Catholic and had really kind of not been down with my faith at that point. I'm a lapsed Catholic now, and so this movie was directly designed to screw my little brain up. And I tried to go to sleep that night, and sorry about that. I tried to go to sleep that night. And I told myself that, I didn't need to worry because the devil was dead. And then I was like, wait, the devil can't die. Oh no. What am I going to? And then this to this day is the only movie that's ever kept me up all night. Like every other movie I was always able to like compartmentalize. And this movie, I couldn't. And it really, really freaks me out. And so I just wanted to bring that up because I wouldn't think The Exorcist 3, like just in the history of sequels, you wouldn't think the third movie was going to be like as good as it is. And this movie is just, I mean, the tone, the vibe of this movie is just absolute devastating existential dread. And they both lean into the themes and topics of the religion that is happened. We actually go to heaven at one point, or at least George C. Scott's image of heaven, but it's not nearly as religious of a movie as the original Exorcist. This movie, I feel like, really grapples a lot more with the atheist side of things, with George C. Scott in particular, who, again, I cannot stress how good he is in this movie. And what's also incredible is when you find out that every scene with George C. Scott is like the first take. You get what he did, one take. Everything in this movie is just
also from what I understand, he was never an easy guy to work with. He's a bit of a hot temper.
He's not. A little bit.
He's very like, which when you see him in this film, like you'd be like, yeah, no, that I could see that being the case. I find this film to be quite remarkable in how subtle it is compared to the first film, despite the fact that it's got a giant dream sequence that takes place in heaven with Samuel L. Jackson
and
Fabio. And oh god, there was a couple of other people up there too. There's a whole
Patrick Ewing is the angel of death.
Patrick Ewing.
Larry King shows up in this movie, not in heaven, although he is right now.
Nope. In a bar.
Just there for no reason. Just like, hey, there's Larry King.
Other interesting story about this, by the way, when Morgan Creek learns that there was a horror comedy parody filmed called Repossessed, which is starring Leslie Nielsen. Okay. That was due to drop in 1990. So they immediately hit the gas and rushed out Exorcist 3 so that it didn't suffer from being made fun of by a Leslie Nielsen film, which also Linda Blair was in that film as well, was in Repossessed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I kind of really want to see this film now. I had no idea that a parody of The Exorcist existed starring Leslie Nielsen and Linda Blair. I now have to see it. But no, it's but like that aside, it's that scene aside, this film is so subtle. It kind of like what Alien 2 does for the Alien franchise, where it literally takes the property and changes the genre. Like it goes from demon possession horror film to an investigation, to like a murder mystery situation where, you know, everyone's almost trapped in the hospital with a killer, but who's the killer? Because this guy's in his cell. So unless someone just let him out, who's been committing all these murders? And it has kind of a little bit of a Seven vibe too, where you don't see any of the bodies, you don't see much blood, and it really isn't until that final scene that you get these massive effects and this huge kind of hit over the head with this is an Exorcist film.
Well, I mean, I think the Fincher film actually to bring up there is Alien 3. These two films have a lot to do with each other, not in just that they are the third movies in sequels. They are movies with alternate director's cuts, which some people would argue are better. They are movies that had a certain amount of troubled productions. They are both basically first-time filmmakers coming out and doing their thing. And both films, I mean, an Alien 3 does kind of the same thing of taking the Alien franchise from big to small and making it all inside of kind of one location now, and taking away all of the guns and just kind of giving them knives and making it much more about where is this one thing, and really making the story much smaller, but at the same time, much more personal. And yeah, I mean, I can't say enough great things about this movie. I mean, even just down to there's some absolutely gorgeous Steadicam work in this, just beautiful long takes, beautiful gliding cameras. Just it's everything here is on point, and I can't. I'm every time I see this movie, I'm flabbergasted that it is not more popular than it is. I'm glad so much that it's finally starting to get. It seems like the chatter seems to be in the horror community that people are really waking up to this.
Yeah, this film is aged very well. Mm-hmm. I think is the best way to put it. Like everything down to the fact that it's so quiet. It's such a quiet film. It doesn't have much of a score. It kind of plays the Exorcist theme at the beginning. Just be like, all right, we got that out of the way with. Okay, let's do our own thing now. It holds on a long shot for a very long time without feeling like it has to play a score over it. And the sound design for Brad Dourif's scene is remarkable. Just the detail and the switching up and the changing of the tones in his voice as he's doing his different monologues. And Brad Dourif straight up knocks it out of the fucking park.
I don't know how
as the Gemini killer.
Yeah, I mean, like he's incredible in this. He's incredible in the like maybe the best X-Files episode. Was it the one with Scully's dad from the first season? He's amazing as Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. And this might be his best performance. But then again, all of his performances are so good that that's a real Sophie's choice of like, well, but hang on, which one?
Yeah. One Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest could arguably be.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot.
Yeah, One Fly. Like it's a toss up for One Fly Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Exorcist 3 for being his two best performances. I do love the interviews that happen with Brad Dourif when he talks about this film. I think there's an interesting kind of rumor about why he was even there and cast in the first place. And that was, not with George C. Scott, the who played the priest originally in the first Exorcist.
That's Jason Miller.
Yeah, Jason Miller. Thank you. Apparently, Jason Miller had a bit of a drinking problem, according to Brad Dourif.
Yeah,
and just could not really keep his lines in his head, and Brad Dourif believes that that's why he was brought on, was to take on some of the script work. And so, but then of course, when they changed around everything and they were able to make it more about The Exorcist as opposed to about Legion, then that's when, but Brad Dourif even says like he prefers the original cut, like the director's cut. He wasn't a big fan of when they came in. I think Brad Dourif has a great quote. It's like Brad Dourif, like he said, like he remembers watching the filming with George C. Scott and hearing George Scott say, like, if Madonna doesn't come out and do a song, I think everyone's going to be disappointed. That's just kind of how ridiculous the studio interference kind of got after a while. But I think all in all, despite that, what we're left with is a real great piece of work that I think stands on its own. And I think it's something that Blatty should 100% be proud of. I think everyone should be proud. I think everyone showed up to work. I didn't realize that Blatty also did the Ninth Configuration, which he says
is great.
Yeah, which he says is part of the same universe. He says exists in the same world and is actually the true prequel to The Exorcist.
Interesting. Okay, I haven't seen Ninth Configuration in a long time. I know it is very highly praised. I know Mark Kermode in particular says it's William Blatty's best film, and so that's one I'm going to have to go and revisit here. Yeah. David, do you want to hear something that's going to blow your mind?
A little bit, sure.
In 1991, George C. Scott was nominated for Worst Actor for a Razzie for this movie.
Why?
Because the Razzies are trash, and they're often wrong and terrible, and you shouldn't pay attention to them because they're trash.
I mean, I do feel like some of those are a little warranted.
I mean, like, don't be wrong, but like they are fine at choosing, like at
Adam Sandler certainly earned a couple of his Razzies.
Like, and like Halle Berry earned hers for Catwoman. But they also get things wildly wrong. I mean, like Stanley Kubrick was nominated for Worst Director for The Shining. Like sometimes they just swing, miss, spin around, and hit themselves in the nuts with the bat. Like, and this is one of those times. Like, I'm sorry, this performance is great.
You can straight up go to hell, sir.
He brings his best friend a stuffed penguin when he's in the hospital. That's adorable. Like, I mean, again,
it's like I brought you half a burger. Where's the other half? In space, where you're from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like their banter is so good. Like they are just BFFs through and through. I love every single moment that they are on screen together. Ed Flanders, George C. Scott. Like I want to watch a movie where like they own a hardware store together or something, and they're just bitching at each other the whole time.
I think it's the best recasting that I've ever seen because unfortunately, Lieutenant Kinderman was played by Lee J. Cobb, who passed away in like 1976 of like a heart attack. So yeah, obviously they couldn't bring him back. But George C. Scott was about the best replacement that you could find for his character, and he really did a great job of building on that friendship.
Did you catch the Spaceballs reference that's in this movie?
Yes. Oh, where she gets the wrong room. He's like, no, this is like, you're thinking of 207. She goes, oh, he's like, go with God. May the Schwartz be with you.
Yeah. Just, I mean, like, and again, how does The Exorcist 3, like, how does it have a Spaceballs reference in it? And it works. Like, it totally makes sense. Like, that's who this guy is. Because it's like his character as a priest, like one of the things that him and George C. Scott do is they go see movies together. There's a scene earlier on where he tells the Carp story where they're going to the movies, and it tells you so much about their characters immediately, because when they show up, the priest is already there. Like Ed Flanders is already there, and he's waiting, and he's like, we're going to be late. And literally George C. Scott comes pulling up in a police car with someone else driving, lights on. He steps out, and it's, like minutes before things are supposed to go. And then he walks up, flashes his badge and says official police business, and then just walks in. And Ed Flanders kind of like looks up to God and kind of apologizes, and then pays for his ticket, and then goes into the movie. And then they have their whole carp discussion. And then there's talks of lemon drops and how like he used to listen to kids confess all the time. And those kids have like breath full of pot and lemon drops. And the sweet smell got under his skin, so now he's addicted to lemon drops. And you're like, who are these two wonderful people, and why aren't I watching a whole television show with them? Their
friendship is so pure and so delightful, and but this is also like, because Lieutenant Kinderman, like you see this as someone who genuinely is so fed up with his line of work and is so exhausted by the world because he's seen the worst of it. And I think the one person that really keeps him centered is his friend, and he's kept this routine with him after what has to be the most like this horrible tragedy. of the Exorcist, like the first Exorcist film, and but this beautiful friendship has blossomed from it, and so it makes it so much more meaningful when his friend dies, and you feel that sense of loss that he gets. You really feel that pause when he gets that phone call after his dream, and just that moment where he walks in and looks under the sheet.
Incredible. Now,
Um,
David, before we go too far on this, there's a couple of
yes,
moments in this movie that I don't want to spoil because
yeah,
they are just that good. Now, yes, we have said that there's an exorcism at the end of the movie called Exorcist 3. I don't think that's a spoiler. Where there is, first off, there's a scene, it's on the box. So let's say there's a super rad pair of scissors in this movie, a pair of scissors from which you have never seen before. It's super cool. The closest instrument of destruction in a movie I can think of that is this awesome is probably the axe in Mandy. It is just that rad. Now, we've also mentioned that this movie takes place in a hospital. So I will say that there is a scene with a nurse, and that's not a spoiler because it's in a hospital. Obviously, there's a scene with a nurse. Now, that said, this scene has like a couple billion views on YouTube. It's pretty infamous, but if you don't know what's coming, it's great.
yeah.
And
The actress who played that nurse remembers even like seeing that she had like over like a billion views on YouTube. She's like, so I guess I'm on YouTube famous. That's so weird.
And then there's a scene with an old lady. Well, there's a scene in the hospital with an old lady, which is all
Best.
incredible. There's also a confession scene in this movie that is absolutely incredible. And again, it's an Exorcist movie. Yeah, it takes place in a church. There's a confession. These are not spoilers because they're so good that we have to mention them. But for the lucky of those of you who've not seen this movie, we want to keep these scenes, as fresh as we can for you.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, like here's the thing. I cannot recommend this film enough. I think that this is required viewing for anybody who enjoys the first film, anybody who enjoys horror in general. I think this is a nice example of subtle filmmaking that I don't know. I really enjoy when a film is able to not show its hand too much or to not hit you over the head with what it wants you to see or think or feel. I think it was one of my big issues, for example, with like all the Matrix movies, was that I always thought that they were super score heavy. Whereas this film almost has no score. It maybe has like a subtle score over some of the scenes, but outside of that, it just kind of lets it's like a stage play. You just kind of you watch these characters interact with each other, and it lets you develop your own opinions of them and develop your own feelings for their relationships. And I think anybody going into this film will be pleasantly surprised by how much they enjoy it.
Absolutely. There are two things. By the tone of your voice, David, it sounds like that's most of what you got. Do you have anything else that you want to bring up? I've got two more quick things before we go, but if you've got more, I'd love to hear it.
Actually, I kind of wanted to get your opinion a little bit on sort of like Brad Dourif's claims that, because here's the thing, the director claims that Miller actually didn't struggle with alcohol and that this is kind of what he wanted to do from the beginning. But I don't know. I am genuinely curious as to whether you think that the changes that were made to this film for the theatrical cut hindered or supported the film. Because personally, I actually enjoy the theatrical cut more.
Okay, so I think there are real strengths of both. I think Dourif gives a more subtle performance in the original Legion cut, which makes for a more interesting and complex movie. However, the reshoot stuff is, now, mind you, the quality of the Legion ending is not great. It's not color corrected. It's like a VHS scan or something terrible. But I could just tell in the quality of like the lighting, what I can tell from what's there, like the reshoots were much more elaborate. I think Peter Blatty got better at shooting that sequence by getting it to do it a second time and getting to, have another shake at it. I think it's one of those, it depends on how spicy you like your food. And some people are going to like a nice light spice that kind of like burns on the back end, kind of like a wasabi. It doesn't like set your whole face on fire, where some people want to just, blow up their entire nasal canal and just like set their face on fire. And I think it really depends on which of the two that you like, because they're both really good. They're just good in different ways. And everything that I understand is that the original Legion is much closer to what Blatty's original intentions were. But he's also not a stupid person. And he, realized that, we're going to have to, if this is what we're going to have to do to make the movie, this is what we're going to have to do to make the movie. And it's not like he was an established director at the time, too. So he's going to, that there are choices that you're going to have to make in that situation, which, might go against your creative intentions. But clearly it worked out, because this movie, as we've said before, just slaps from beginning to end, and to this day. And it never fails to hold my attention. There's two things. Or actually, do you have any more questions for me or anything else that you want to talk about?
None that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, great. Well,
so please proceed.
All right, first off, one thing I think that's stellar in this is the casting of almost all the extras and the incredibly minor characters. So many of them are just suspicious in a way that makes you be like, I don't like the way that person's sitting back there. They're not doing anything, and I don't care for it. It makes me think they're up to something. And that's hard to do. Like this, the casting of minor characters in this is up there with like the Coen brothers.
Yeah,
of just
kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where you're just like, oh, these extras creep me out.
100%. Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. That's another great example. The other thing I would say about this movie is I do not care for the face of Jesus on the cross in the beginning in the church. Nope. I do not care for
I
that face
found
at
it
all.
Comical as fuck.
I found it somewhere comical. Between. Yeah, well, I found it either comical or creepy. I'm not quite sure what they were going for, but it is not like a face of Jesus I have ever seen before. It was, I did not care for it.
Because when its eyes open up and when the door blows open, it looks like he had been smoking an excessive amount of weed. And so, what?
Yeah, he's literally like, "Oh shit, man. Dad's here!"
Oh,
like,
yeah, fuck.
That's what Jesus looks like when God bursts in. It's like, you've been smoking the reefer, son.
I completely 100% agree with you. Oh my God.
Well, then I think that probably wraps things up for us. David, I've got 2 movies picked up for us for next week. So the first movie is a little movie called Death Ship. And then the other movie is a little movie called Cheap Thrills.
I have heard of neither of these.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so and let's be clear, we're talking about the original 70s Ghost Ship. We're not talking about the remake. So I'm surprised you haven't heard of Ghost Ship, because it got a whole ass.
Oh, you said Death Ship.
Hang on. Oh, wait, I think no, hold on. I think Death Ship was remade as Ghost Ship. I might have written this down. I'm sorry, everyone.
Okay.
Terrible at my job here. It is the ship movie.
You're doing great, Ken. Don't change a thing.
I scroll through this now. Okay. No, damn it. Okay, the search option doesn't work. Scrolling. Come on, internet. Great podcast stuff. David, while I'm scrolling right now to confirm the name of the movie we're going to talk about.
Wait, so you're saying you didn't like the remake of Ghost Ship with all of that heavy new metal?
No, it was not great. Death Ship. No, I'm correct. It is Death Ship, which I believe was remade as Ghost Ship. I don't know. Well, if you want us to get to the bottom of that particular mystery, I guess vote for that on our Instagram. David, what is our Instagram?
Funny you should ask, Ken. Our Instagram is Shutter_show, where you can also find me at _DW Marlowe, where I get up to my regular musings, occasional wood projects, and you can see what I get up to in my regular everyday life with my wife. But yeah, I will be posting our, the occasional what we're doing, what we're up to on Instagram. I'll make sure to put the poll up there as well. But yeah, Ken, where can people find what you're doing and what you're up to?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ken Stachnik, KenStachnik. You can find us on Twitter at Shutter Show. And the other thing?
What?
Next week is Christmas. So happy early Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. And other than that, good night, good luck. And most importantly,
go fuck yourselves.
And get your booster shots. Get vaccinated. For God's sake, wear a mask.
Fuck Jesus.
Also that. Have a good night, everybody.